Hey there, I'm Dr. Katie McNichol, licensed mental health counselor, and I specialize in the mental health and well-being of teenage girls and young women. And I've spent over 15 years in private practice counseling and working with just middle school, high school, and college girls. And so I've learned a lot about what's going on inside their brain and their mind. And I've been doing this new series called Questions to a Counselor from Teen Girls. And the reason I'm putting it together is not just for girls. I think that can be really helpful as a young woman to hear that there are other girls asking similar questions and wondering the same things, but really on that bigger level for parents and adults to really hear that when given the opportunity to talk to a counselor and ask anonymous questions, what might she ask, right? Like if you have a daughter and she had an opportunity to come listen to me speak when I do this Q&A in this format, what might your kiddo be asking? And so I've had hundreds and hundreds of questions, and throughout the series I'll answer some of the questions, but I really like to highlight more of that macro level, like what's really going on, like what is she asking even behind the questions. So I was going through my questions, and really one that comes up a lot, so I think it's worth just kind of chilling on for a little bit, is how do I handle my parents when they're mad at me? I get that so often. I'm sitting here just looking at a couple right now. How to talk to parents when they're mad at you. How do I handle when my mom yells at me, and instead of yelling back, what do I do? And this is such an interesting one because, believe it or not, they don't want to fight with you the way that they fight with you. I have literally over the years had girls sit in my office crying and saying, I don't understand why I get so mad at her, especially mom. I don't understand why I yell, and sometimes I say things and I don't mean it, but it comes out and then I can't take it back. I get that all the time. I mean, I can remember as a teenage girl doing that to my mom. And now that I'm older and now that I understand the mind of a teenage girl a lot better, I think there's more to it than just she's being a jerk, right? Or she's being a brat. But the thing that really strikes me when I look through all these questions that I've had over the years about how do I handle my parents when they're so mad at me, that just tells me there's a lot of anger and frustration going on at home, right? There is a lot of yelling. There is a lot of miscommunication. That's probably one of the number one things is she's not communicating with you. And frankly, parents are often not communicating in a way that's healthy or helpful to her. Sometimes we make a lot of assumptions about teenage girls and where they're at. They look like adults, right? Like I have clients come in sometimes that are 13, 14 years old, and you would think they are 24. They're so developed physically. They're 5'9". And they look like a young woman, but we have to remember their brain is just not there. So they don't have the ability to control their emotions like an adult does. Like it's just not possible. So that's an expectation that we want to set from the beginning. That just going into it, she's already going to have a harder time managing that emotion. That's part of what growing up and being at home with family is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an environment where she has to learn those things, right? But she also has to be given a little bit of grace as she's trying to figure that out. And she's trying to become her own kind of independent person. She doesn't go around, for the most part. There's always the outliers that do, the anti-authority kids. I've dealt with them before. They really do like pushing your buttons. They really do like fighting with you, but that's not the norm. That's not what I see all the time. And typically when I'm in a group setting like this, asking these questions, that's not really what the girls are asking. They genuinely want to know, like this one, how can I handle when mom is yelling at me without just going in and yelling back? Like, what do I do? And I can tell you trying to teach a teenager how to manage her emotions when she doesn't even have that part of the brain fully developed yet, is a lot harder than really trying to get an adult to do it. Now, adults obviously have patterns built up and habits, but we do have the part of the brain that is that filter system that can genuinely learn how to manage that emotion. So a lot of times what I'll tell girls is, we got to have more empathy for parents, right? The timing, I know they come to you at times, like I hear it from parents all the time, even my friends, like, why is she coming in at 11 o'clock at night to try to talk to me about something really important? Or why is she waiting to the last minute to do something? And then that gets mom or dad super frustrated. I know we often want that kind of like first time obedience, like I'm going to tell you something and I just want you to listen. That's really challenging during the teen years, and that's probably not going to happen very often unless you actually have a really compliant kid. They exist. There are the girls that are just super compliant, and whatever mom and dad says, they're just going to pretty much roll with. They sometimes turn out to be a little sneaky though, so it's a whole different issue. But these girls are genuinely not wanting to yell back. They don't want to fight with you. But they want to know, like, what could they do? What could they actually do? So I try to teach them a little bit about empathy, right? That's good emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is about understanding your own emotions and how they impact other people, but then also understanding how to read other people's emotions a little better and how they may have things going on in their life, right? Mom or dad may be coming home from a long day at work and it didn't go well. And so maybe somebody's in a mood. It doesn't mean that it's your fault, but she may have just kind of gotten caught in that crossfire. So I always encourage girls to apologize when they're in the wrong, because believe it or not, they can be a role model to their parents, right? I've had clients over the years where mom and dad are just unwilling to change. They're just not. They're not willing to change their behavior. They're not willing to look at themselves and how they may be contributing. But I'll still work with a girl because she, believe it or not, can start working on those things and demonstrate a way to do different. If one person does different, the whole system does have to change to some degree. So I will teach them about that. And then I will just encourage them to understand that parents are not perfect, right? When we're in the teenage years, a lot of times they're still viewing parents as this entity, right? That's almost not human. I find my college clients, they really start to get like, oh, mom and dad are actually human. They have emotions, they have feelings, they have bad days. Whereas you're looking at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, they're not going to really think that too much about you at this point, and that's just normal. That's just an expectation that we have to have. But I wanted you to hear in this questioning that girls really are concerned about their fighting with you. They don't like it. Just the other night, I got a text message from a client where she was kind of walking me through like, oh, I had this big fight with my mom and I just can't figure out how to talk to her, and I hate the fighting and I don't know what to do. I'm trying to stay calm. I'm trying to not be rude. I'm trying to be respectful, and it's just not working, and mom's coming at me, and what do? That was like basically the text message that I got. And that's a challenge because there's not an easy answer for that. Some of this is just that normal push and pull of figuring each other out. At the end of the day, it's communication, and we do have to work on communication, especially with our teens. And so I just wanted you to see that she does care. She does know that sometimes she's being a pain. She does know that she doesn't like the fighting. She doesn't like the yelling. She really doesn't want it to be that way. But I think also a piece of it that we forget is they are mirroring you a lot of times. And this is no blame on parents. My whole thing is I'm not telling you how to parent. That's not my style of counseling. I'm more, here's what she's thinking and here are the questions that she's asking me so that you have a better understanding and awareness of how to respond to her ultimately. But I will just say fundamentally, kids in general are looking at their parents and looking at how their parents respond and react to judge their own way of responding and reacting. So if mom's going to a level 10, whoop, I probably need to go to a level 10. And that's where you're going to start to see a lot of that up and down. So that may be something that you should consider is, how are you reacting to her in those hard conversations? Because she's going to probably mirror that. She's going to already be overly defensive because she's a teenager. She just is. Her emotions just can't be controlled like an adult. They're going to be higher. She's going to feel it more. Her anger, that might be an anger that you think should be like a 4 response, like a level 4 response to something. She's probably going to be a 7 or an 8 just because that's how teenagers are. They're dramatic. They exaggerate, they over respond to things. But I will tell you, they look to the adults around them for how to navigate that. So if mom is not freaking out so much, that might actually bring her down a little bit more. So just know she's wondering, how in the world do I not get in so many fights with my parents? That is a question I get all the time. I don't think I've never not had that question, and usually I get it from multiple girls when I'm speaking. So hopefully that's helpful.